Hi, welcome back to UBTV in English Time program.
And this is the 11th episode.
Oh yeah.
So today we're going to discuss about something new.
What is it? Can you explain to us?
This is the scariest one actually. This is the final destination for students.
In English language education. Yeah.
It's not only for English language education students, but all of students from around the world, I guess. This is the final destination of them. Of us. Of us.
Yeah, of us.
All of us. Yeah. Okay. So, do you have anything to talk?
Okay, today we are going to talk about one video and two simulation. One video and
two simulation about what?
Okay, for the video is about how to do a good presentation, and for the video is
this is interesting.
What is it?
This is gonna be interesting.
Proposal seminar and result seminar.
Okay.
In simulation.
Okay. Do you know what? I'm a bit scared when I heard that two things.
Me too.
That's the scariest thing that we will face.
Yeah.
Later or sooner. Okay. So maybe these people will make like a beautiful memories about
beautiful presentation.
So that's why it will not make us nervous to do a seminar proposal
and seminar
and result seminar. So okay, let's check these people out.
How to do a good presentation. There is a saying that public speaking is not a talent, it is a skill. Thus, it is something that we can learn. As university students, doing a presentation is something we do in almost every class. Doing a presentation means we have to share with others about a topic. It is a means to prove that we understand what we have learned. For a presentation to be good, it has to be effective. It is effective when it delivers what it wants to say in a well-organized way. In order to do so, there are some aspects to consider. We would like to divide this episode into 3 sections. The first on what to do in a presentation, what not to do in a presentation, and the last is the language used in a presentation. Well, to begin, we will share the checklist for preparation on what to do in a good presentation. First, you must know your audience. To be able to do so, you might need to do a small research on who your audience will be. By doing so, it is expected that you will be able to meet your audience expectation and ensure that the content of your presentation will be relevant of their interest. It might be of help to establish a clear objectives in the introduction so that your audience will focus on you and your presentation. The second important thing to do is to organize the information. It can be done by doing several things. First, you have to decide a clear structure of presentation. It means that you have to arrange the information in order so that your audience will understand the information clearly. Thus, you might have to make outline on the order of your presentation. You might share it with the audience. Then, you have also to ensure that the introduction and ending have maximum impact. Make sure the introduction and the ending of your presentation leave a strong impression on your audience. You must also link the different sections together. Make sure the information presents flows well. And most importantly, you must be aware of the time allotted for your presentation. It is important that you are speaking within the time range. Doing presentation less than the time given will make you look unprepared, and doing presentation longer than you are supposed to might leave not a very good impression as well. Body language is crucial in a presentation. Proper body language use indicates confidence and positivity. Maintain your eye contact to engage your audience. Besides body language, the volume, rhyme, and pause affect your presentation. Thus, it is important that you see your voice effectively. Make sure your voice reach all the audience. You might have to use microphone if the room is large and you have a lot of audience attending. Complexity and formality of language need to be adjusted depending on who your audience are. Checking audience understanding here and there might also be necessary to do just to make sure that the audience is with you. Last but not least is preparation. There are several things you need to do for preparation. First, you might need to write a brief note to assist or to keep you in track with the presentation. A note might still be needed even though you have your PowerPoint presentation already. Write your note in a piece of paper that you can bring on stage without having to distract the audience attention from the presentation. In order to do so, the notes can be written in cue cards. The second thing you can do for preparation is practicing. It is evident that practice makes perfect. You might have to rehearse before presenting. Practicing in front of the mirror is one common form of practice many people do. Practice allows you to see when changes are necessary, are not supposed to do. The first is in the opening. Indonesian people used to say a very long greeting addressing every audience. In a presentation delivered in English, opening and greeting should be made simple. Instead of mentioning the names of the audience and thanking the universe for making the presentation possible, a good morning everyone or good afternoon ladies and gentlemen will suffice. For the ending, it is very common also for Indonesian presenters to apologize for the mistake they have committed. Please do not do that. Really, you do not have to do that. Moreover, sometimes your audience will not notice the mistakes you have committed. So do not apologize because that will make the audience see your mistakes. A simple, "That's all my presentation, thank you," is just enough. Another thing to think of is use of PPT. Remember, PPT means PowerPoint presentation, not Power Text presentation. So do not write a long paragraph in your slides. Organize your information in points, not paragraph. 8 lines per slide is considered the most appropriate so that audience can focus more on your presentation while being also guided by the points on your slide. They do not have to spend their time reading paragraphs from the slide. Keep the font type and size as readable as possible, not too difficult to read and not too small or big to read. Do not use as many colors as it is distracting and might hurt the eyes of your audience. Maintain the balance of the contrast of your slides, the background and the font's color, so that they are not blinding and the information are visible. Do not use too much animation. This is distracting. Keep the animation low-key, just enough to make your audience attracted with the presentation, not to distract them from your presentation. To sum up, keep your presentation simple. Next thing is body language. Body language is important to be used. However, use proper body language. Do not use the excessive one. Do not move from one place to another too much. That is distracting. And the worst is that shows that you are nervous and unprepared. So use appropriate body language. Well, I have shared the do's and don'ts of doing a presentation with you. I hope I make everything clear and good luck presenting everyone.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Muhammad Subika Praskeno. Welcome to my thesis proposal seminar entitled correlation between grammar mastery and students' writing ability among the first year students of SMA 4 Malang. There are 3 chapters that I would like to explain to you today. Now let's begin to chapter 1. Chapter 1, Introduction. The background of the study. Writing is the way to represent people's thought visually using sequence of symbols, and grammar is one of the important aspects in writing. Why? Because by mastering grammar, students can improve their writing ability. And there are several previous studies that has done similar research in different locations. That is why the researcher want to conduct a research in SMA 4 Malang. The research problem is, what is the correlation between students' grammar mastery and writing ability on descriptive text among the first year students of SMA 4 Malang? And for the purpose of the study is to find out the correlation between students' grammar mastery and writing ability on descriptive text among the first year students of SMA 4 Malang. And for the significance of the study, for the researcher can find out the correlation between grammar mastery and writing ability of students of SMA 4 Malang. So the researcher can find conclusion of the research, and for the English teacher can find out what is the best method to improve the students' grammar mastery or their writing ability. And for the next researcher, this research can be used as the inspiration for their research. For the scope and limitation of study, this research will only discuss about grammar mastery and descriptive text writing ability among the first year students from C2 and I2 class of SMA 4 Malang during the academic year of 2016 and 2017. So for the students above 2016 and 2017 academic year, the results might different. For the hypothesis, there are 2 hypotheses. The first is the alternative hypothesis, or H1, which is achieved when there is a correlation between grammar mastery and writing ability. And the second hypothesis is the null hypothesis, or HO, is achieved when there is no correlation between grammar mastery and writing ability. And finally, for the key terms, there are 2 key terms in this research. The first is grammar. Grammar is a description of the rules that govern how language sentences are formed, according to Thornbury in 2002. And the second is writing ability. According to Yi in 2009, writing ability is the ability to initiate and evolve ideas and then use certain revising and editing practices to develop them to maturity in a given context. The first one is grammar. Grammar should be acquired when learning a foreign language. According to Harmer in 2001, grammar is a knowledge of what words can go, where, and what form these words should take. Without grammar, the writer will have difficulty in creating good and easy to understand sentences, so that's why grammar is important. And for grammar tests, according to Thornbury in 2002, there are 2 kinds of tests that can be used in assessing grammar. The first one is the discrete item test, or we also know it as written test, and oral performance test. And in this research, the researcher will use discrete item test. And for writing is a unique skill which has some characteristics that cannot be found in other skills. According to Brown in 2007, writing is like swimming, where human beings universally learn to walk and talk, but swimming and writing are culturally specific learned behaviors. And for assessing writing, there are 4 types of writing assessment according to Brown. The first one is imitative writing, the second is intensive or controlled writing, the third is responsive writing, and the last is extensive writing. And in this research, the researcher will use responsive writing because the researcher will give a simple comment for the students to write a simple descriptive text, and the students will try to write a descriptive text from the topic that the researcher has chosen. And for the teaching of grammar and writing in senior high school in Indonesia, the teaching of English grammar in Indonesia is not emphasized too much. The teaching of English grammar and writing in SMA 4 Malang is done simultaneously, so while teaching writing, the teacher also teach grammar to the students. And in learning writing, most Indonesian students face challenges regarding the complex grammatical structures in English, because grammatical structures in English are different from grammatical structures in Indonesia. Now we continue to chapter 3, the research methods. For the research design, the researcher used quantitative approach with correlation method. And the research is conducted to figure out the relationship between two variables that the researcher have explained before, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. And the data will be analyzed using a certain correlation coefficient using SPSS. And for the data and source of data, the data are gathered from scores, scores from writing test and grammar test. And the population of the study, there are 330 first year students of SMA 4 Malang, and the sample are 56 students from 2 classes. And the sample was taken from cluster random sampling. And for the research procedure, the first is the researcher decide where to conduct the study and who will be the research sample that the researcher have explained before. And the second is the researcher asks for permission to the school's head of curriculum. And next, the researcher decide the schedule with the English teacher. And the fourth is the researcher develop 2 tests as the instrument of the study, the grammar test and the writing test. And then the researcher validate the instruments to the English teacher. After that, the researcher administered the test to the students, and after the test has been taken, the score will be analyzed using SPSS version 23. And last, the researcher conclude the study by accepting the H1 or alternative hypothesis or the H0 or the null hypothesis. And for the data analysis, according to Sarwono in 2006, there are 7 steps in data analysis. The first one is data editing, the second is variable developing, the third is data coding, the fourth is error checking, the fifth is creating data structure, the sixth is pre-computer analysis checking, and the last is tabulation. And for the validity of the study, the researcher asked the first year English teacher of SMA 4 Malang to validate the instruments, because valid instruments means valid data, and invalid data doesn't reflect the real condition of the sample. And the drawing of conclusion can be done appropriately and effectively if the data are valid.
Hello everybody, I'm Mega Safitri from English Education Program. Today I would like to demonstrate how to do results minor in English. This study is relied on premise that students are unique creatures. They have different way to receive and to retain new information, or we call it as learning style. Learning style is affected by some factors, and one of the factors called as gender. According to Brown 2007, gender became the significant factor that affect the male and female learning style. So that's why this research is focused on the students' learning style and using gender as the predictor. Based on the background of the study, there are 2 research problems. The first one is what is predominant third semester male students' learning style, and the second one is what is predominant third semester female students' learning style. The significance of this study is to reveal the students' predominant learning style, and it can be information from the lecturer and students and for the next researcher. For the lecturer, maybe when they want to set a curriculum or classroom activities, this finding can be as consideration, so it will fulfill the students' need. For the students themselves, they will help with this information, with the result of this research, that their learning style belongs to kinesthetic or another learning style. And for the next researcher, maybe this result will become the references to dig more information about the learning style. This study is focused on the third semester students with the gender as the predictor, and also use Wright 1984 as the theory of the research. In order to avoid misambiguity and misunderstanding, the researcher gives 3 key terms. For the first one, gender. Gender here is defined as psychological features or attribute consists of male and female psychological thing. And for the learning style itself is defined as preferred way that repeatedly happen and used by the students. And for the third one, English department students refers to the students who involved in 2015. Chapter 2, Review of Related Literature. It's about the definition and concept of learning style. There are some experts proposed about the learning style theory. For the first theory comes from Kolb, 1999. Kolb defined learning style as the preferred way how the students resolve conflict between the previous knowledge and the present knowledge. And for the second theory comes from Wright, 1999. Wright defined learning style as the habitual way how the students learn something. And from this research, it's used as the theory to be the basic theory from this research. And the third theory comes from Dunn and Dunn. Dunn also stated about the definition of learning style, that is individual way to receive, process, and to retain information. So it's more about the process, how the new information processed in the brain. There are 2 previous studies are used for the references and the comparison study for the recent study. The first previous study comes from Resignated 2015, entitled The Study of Learning Style and its relationship with educational achievement among Iranian high school students. So in this research, the researcher correlate between students' learning style and their achievement. The result of the research shows that there are positive relationship between the students' learning style and their achievement in the school. For the second previous study comes from Nasiri 2009, entitled The Relationship Between Perceptual Learning Style Preferences and Skill-Based Learning Strategies. So in this research, the research correlate between learning style and their learning strategy. The result of the research shows that kinesthetic becomes the predominant learning style of the students as the participant. This is Chapter 3, Methodology of this research. The research used quantitative with cross-sectional survey design. So, quantitative means that the researcher will collect and analyze the data using numeric data. And also, the researcher will collect the data with the only once in a time. So what is the data and source of the data? The source of the data in the research is the third semester students, consists of 49 males and 78 females. This is the finding of this research. From 127 questionnaire distributed to the students, only 100 completed questionnaire that the researcher get consists of 34 from males and 66 from the female students. This is predominant semester male students learning style. From the result of the research, it shows that kinesthetic become male students learning style, showing in the pie chart that 42% students become the kinesthetic one. So it is kinesthetic become the learning style of male students. This is the discussion of the result that kinesthetic and group become the predominant learning style of male and female students. The previous researchers also show the same thing, that kinesthetic and group become the predominant male and female students learning style, like conducted by Wintergaps, De Capua, and then Melton, and also Peacock, Wright, Highline, and Wainwright. After discussing about the result of the research, we come to the conclusion that from 100 students consist of male and female students, we know that the male predominant learning style is kinesthetic and the female predominant learning style is group and kinesthetic. Okay everybody, that's all my demonstration about research seminar. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, bye.
Thanks God, I will not be nervous anymore because of the previous video. Thank you.
The video is give you some useful tips to do the good presentation?
It is useful, very useful for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who always nervous for this final destination of all of students around the world, especially Indonesia.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's enough.
Okay.
Do you think so?
I think so.
So for you guys who already got in like the last semester,
Yeah, the last
you should
semester.
watch this. It's not short, but you must
Yeah,
watch
must.
this. This is useful for you who
Yeah.
are always nervous in having or facing your final destination.
Yeah.
So okay, thank you for watching and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
In the next episode.
Okay, that's fine.